How you doing, everybody? This is Let's Be Real, Brad, and today I'll be talking about an influential, great, and fantastic 1980s horror film directed by Sam Raimi, and that is the original The Evil Dead. Before I get into this review, please hit the like button, please subscribe if you haven't already. It means the world to me. You guys are liking my videos, subscribe to my channel, you guys are the best. The Evil Dead, directed by Sam Raimi, starring Bruce Campbell, is a influential and great horror film that I still think works and holds up to this day. The reason why I think this movie is so great, merely because of its budget. The budget is something that always gets talked about with this film, and I think because it has that low budget quality style that has so much charm and so much likability to it, that Bruce Campbell and Sam Raimi just went ahead and just made this movie out of some of the money that they got from investors and loans, and they made a hit out of it, and it's just a big cult movie at this point that everyone loves. You could tell there's so much excitement and enjoyment through this movie. It just has so much energy, and after we get through maybe the first 20 minutes of the movie that are a little boring and a little slow, this movie is just fire rockets constantly. There are so many great and memorable horror scenes that come up. The makeup and costume design is absolutely fantastic. It still holds up to this day of how creepy and weird all these little people are after getting taken over by the devil or some weird crap that's going on. It is still extremely impressive, and it actually made for some really good scares watching it this time around. What I also think is super endearing about this movie is the technical bad qualities this movie had. You can tell that this movie, they really tried to make this movie good, but there's so many times in this movie where you can see so many bad and really messed up things that they tried to do, and it does look pretty bad. And normally a movie like this, I would absolutely rip it apart as one of the worst technical movies ever. But I think, though, that they were really trying, and they made such an effective horror movie that I almost have to give them a little credit. It almost makes for an enjoyable look back and see that you could see some guys and see some microphones that are hanging in certain situations, or how when Bruce Campbell's up against the door, there's perfectly cut holes already for someone to come in and grab them. There's just little things like that that are just super hilarious, and some of them are very purposeful because of the budget they had. That Sam Raimi just knew how self-aware he was just making this film, that he would make it super goofy and super hilarious, and that is shown in pretty much all of his movies. He always hints that sense of hilariosity to it and how goofy and silly it is, and I think that's why I really love Sam Raimi's movies. Bruce Campbell is absolutely awesome as Ash, and in the rest of the series, he is absolutely great. He's one of the most iconic horror characters in the horror genre. And Bruce Campbell clearly loves working with Sam Raimi, as he's pretty much in all of his movies. And you can tell that they're really great best friends, because they really make this movie so well. As Bruce Campbell is absolutely electric, he's exciting, and he fits the tone and purpose of this movie so well. Story is absolutely crazy, and it's very simple, where you have these four teenagers that go out in the woods into this log cabin, and they see the Book of the Dead, and all this crazy stuff starts to happen. It seems like a very simple and basic concept that we've seen before, but this movie is just so outlandish, and it's just so intense and really gory and bloody and absolutely hilarious that I didn't mind the really simple story and the really basic characters that it has. What's also interesting about this film, this movie has received an NC-17 rating when it came out, and they've never retroactively changed it, because I think this movie could just be a regular R rating. But it's really cool to see that this is one of the only NC-17 movies that I have technically seen, and it was just so crazy that back then this movie was considered banned everywhere and just only playing at drive-ins and playing at some theaters because of how gory and graphic this movie was, and everyone was just kind of terrified to see this movie. But it created such a great iconic legacy to it that I still think we need to appreciate and love today. Only negatives of this movie is that in the beginning of the film, the first 20 minutes is a little boring, has a little bit of a setup, and there's a lot of talking between the college students that isn't all that interesting. And so finally, when you get to the house and some things start to happen, that's when the movie gets interesting, because the movie isn't really focused on the writing and the characters and necessarily the story in general. This is a movie that I love to watch every Halloween, and I think Evil Dead 2 is a movie that is a perfect companion to this film, and I think parts of it are actually done much better in that film. I'm gonna give this film a strong 9 out of 10. Let me know what you guys think about it down below, if you've seen it or you haven't seen it. I don't want to tell you everything about this movie that I love. I'm just trying to give you a brief overview of all the great things about it, because I think this is a movie that you really just gotta watch and enjoy and just find all the great things about this film. And as always, I'll see you guys in the next video.